measure. This was on the board. Of course, we had our key performance indicators regarding, we had the board and also the MD, who was our employee, and which employee is now in for the staff because we have him coming in on the staff, from the staff level. And I would say that we kept receiving reports in our meeting, in our board meetings, and the chair of the finance, who is here with me, the CPA FK Langat, was ably representing presenting the reports during our meetings. And of course, we had issues of we do not have enough money. We have not been able to collect the revenue which we intended, and especially now some could be posting zero collection because of no water. When there's no water, you can't expect to collect, of course. The issue, I think, of Litein was really one of our major desire to have it functioning, because it is one of the areas on the rural core center which is revenue. We collect revenue from there, like it is enough for us to get revenue once the water is there. And the rest of the schemes I mentioned were on revenues which are not much, but of course it was assisting. The one for Litein is the one we were relying on. I would invite my colleague to actually mention to us what could have, I'll give you this later, FK. So we needed to get from management what are those innovations we can do so that we are able to generate income from within. And one of the things which management did, and we gave that approval like very fast, was the partner who was giving us the funding for the Ainamoi route, the line which was going to Ainamoi. I think we were together with the chair of water in this house, Honorable Bet, when the Japanese, there was a company from Japan who came, and we commissioned a project or connections which are going to give us 200 plus customers coming up to our attention all the time. The primary challenges facing Kewasco at the moment, I think, is basically the revenues and the resource, which is money, which is not enough. The money is collected from revenue from customers. I think Urban collects about 14 million to 15 on a good month, but the salary is almost, gross salary is 11 million, leaving us with a paltry 2 million to be able to now do the rest of the chemicals and of course pay the other utilities, which I think has not been enough. And the strike, I think we kept averting it. We kept talking to the union members. I remember one time the chair, is called Ober, no, the chair, the late Korir, and the secretary, they came and we met in the office one time, and they were really complaining of the delays, which I think we were all aware about, and also the issue of increment, the salary, the percentage which was agreed on the CBA, which had not been fulfilled or rather met. But we kept hoping that with the revenues which we were going to collect from the connections which we were hoping to make, and of course the upgrading of the system, we're going to be able to meet some of those obligations. And I believe the coming board should be able to do that if that revenue will be coming by. The strike, I think, was long coming. We kept telling staff when things improve, definitely we're going to get their pockets or going to get better than what it was. But due to failures of the supply of water to customers who are ready to pay, of course, I think this has been a rotating problem which comes in and out month after month, and therefore what we have now is a culmination of the delays which I think we all kept seeing and hoping that it would improve. There was a promise from the county government through the department that they were going to look into how to bail us out, which I think never came by in terms of the resources or the money which we were expecting to be given. I remember during COVID, we requested for 52 million, which I think was approved by this great house, this honorable house, but what came to our account was 16 point something million, and it went into salaries. So 32 million, I think, was never reported to have come to our account, if I can remember. This has been a culmination of, I think, carried forward issues which did not start yesterday and did not start even with the current management. There are some issues or other matters which kept rolling from a period earlier than now. Then we had promises, because we sat in our board with the CC Water, CC Finance, or the members who were there, and the promise was we'll talk to the executive, we'll discuss, we hope to get whatever we come across, and they are given, they are going to attend to it, but it never happened, if I can remember. If it happened, it was like in a small way, paying electricity like this month, the next month, it is disconnected. I remember one time 5 million or 10 million was sent to Bomet. The following day, the power was disconnected again, and so the supply never came. I think it has been a cat mouse race for the company, for the duty bearers, which I think all of us inclusive, that is this house, department. And of course, as a board, we kept hoping that our requests could be answered. But I want to report that not much came in. If it was, it would go belatedly. The county government, for example, owed, the last report was 20 million, thereabouts. And I don't think it was ever paid, because the staff one time through the union went to see the deputy governor, and the promise was it was going to be looked into. But if that money came, I believe it was going to address the issue of salary, because it was a first, we had agreed that anything coming, let it be on the first charge was the salaries, because this is touching on people's lives, touching on, one person with a family, you're touching almost 1,000 lives within which needed to be supported through that salary or the payments which would come from Kewasco. Hence, therefore, the strike, I think, was inevitable, and it's upon the executive to come in very strong to help. It's unfortunate that this has gone that direction, but I think maybe a wake-up call to all of us so that we can address this matter once and for all. The other issue in Kewasco is about the aging staff. I know you might have been informed that there are casuals who have been on the wage bill. The aging staff here, I would say, there are things which they may not be able to do as the agile team. I don't want to say agencies, because that would be a term which came in the other day, and we don't have agencies anyway in the company. But the young, the youthful staff, I think, are the ones who have been hired as casuals, so that they're able to assist where work is needed to be expedited. I want to stop there, Chair, and ask my colleague, Langat, CPA, to mention something on the revenues which we were getting from the reports, which I think was the truth, because I don't think we were being given figures which are not correct.
Thank you. As CPA is responding, kindly be brief in your responses so that you can move on, because we still have a lot of questions to
Noted.
answer.
Noted, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair, for that opportunity. Just to mention very briefly, under your guidance, that what is the health status of the company in relation to revenue vis-a-vis recurrent expenditure, because that is the biggest challenge, to ensure that at least we can wake up to a new day and be able to operate. Chair, I can say without fear of contradiction that the company was on serious dire straits in terms of finance. When we have supply that is not disconnected for 9 months, for 10 months, for Bureti, you are incurring salaries to the tune, that's gross salary, of to the tune of about 2.2 million every month to month, before you factor in the element of, on the part of the employer, which is pensions, before you factor in the element of housing levy, which has to be paid by the employer, and of course NSSF, the other portion from the employer. So that pairing, the shilling for shilling. In relation to the collection, which is mentioned by the former chair, that we were doing about 14 on average per month, 14 million. And when it comes to the actual gross salary, will come to almost 11, 12 million. And now that will get, of course, the company in a situation where it cannot be able to buy chemicals, because you have to factor in the elements of chemicals to get a vehicle moving, to get a vehicle to carry every time a boozer from here to Kapkatet to deliver water. Because when you don't have water in Bureti, you have to deliver clean water from Kapcheptoror all the way to Kapkatet, and that is a very high cost. So, Chair, the other challenge that I would mention is what we saw whenever we had supply, we were doing anything in excess of 97% collection. So what it tells you is that if we had supply, water running on the taps, our people will be able to pay. So that we are getting on a quarter-to-quarter basis, 97, 1 or 2% collection, meaning we are able to collect what we are billing and be able to collect a bit of the areas. And if we want to be consistent in terms of supply, then of course what you are saying is we'll be able to operate and we'll be able to break even. The other challenge, Chair, and not to push too much this on my part, is the salary disparity. You know, there was a bit of sulking on the part of Bureti, especially the rural component. They were paid separate from the urban, arising from the harmonization of, actually the merger, not harmonization, because what was lacking was the harmonization of salaries for the rural component to tie up or to match with the urban employees. So that disparity is running up to today, but that was done sometimes in 2018. So it has become a stain that has to be corrected. However much we may be able to dispense with the matters of the strike, that disparity is still standing up to today. So, Chair, I hope I have been able to support the former chair.
Thank you. We shall have a round of questions with us here. So I'll start with the relationship. How was your relationship between the MD and, of course, the CC in charge of Department of Water? And you've rightly put that you are doing an oversight. How are you rating the MD? Because of course you say that the status of Kewasco as you speak is in a bad state. And before, when you are giving out contract to and managing director, you should be rating him in his performance. So what did you do when you saw that this company is doing badly? Did you rate the MD, the current MD? And who gave the contract? Who signed the contract for the MD? Who is the custodian of the terms and conditions of the current MD? So you elaborate that one, the relationship within the MD, the CEC, and of course you give us the terms of contract. So number two, I'll give to Honorable Noella.
Okay, I would really wish to know if the strike at the moment have affected any project at Kewasco. Then at the moment that the contract came to an end, which you have stated that the last meeting you had was last year, December, were you able maybe to hand over, because I understand that you are one of the signatories to the company of Kewasco, were you able to hand over maybe at an acting capacity so that it could still smoothen the operations of Kewasco? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Madam Chair, you've mentioned that you've been in the board since 2017 up to last year, 2023. You've served under two MDs and the way the information that this committee got from the previous former MD that served before the current MD is that the company Kewasco was performing. Since you've been there between the two MDs, what has happened? What really happened after that now until we are in the situation that we are at the moment? Because initially, before the exit of the former MD, the salaries, as we understand, were paid on time. What really happened? What came in between until we are where we are? Then number two, you've mentioned of the almost 92% collection that you collected this revenue. There is the issue of non-revenue water. Then again, how did it came to climb from the former MD? Because also we have a figure that when we exited it was around 42.5%. Then at the moment we are reading around 53 plus. What again happened that this situation was not arrested? Maybe you can answer as maybe we proceed. Thank you.
Madam Chair, those are how many questions? Around 4. So we can add you one from Honorable Vincent. Colleague. Well, that is a lot for you. Okay, thank you.
Where I'll be needing assistance from my colleagues, I think I'll invite them to do so. The question from you, Chair, is about the contract of the MD and the relationship with the department, that is the CEC Water. And, the other name is a bit long, Natural Resources something. I want to put it to be on record that the contract of the MD was given to him in just before COVID. He acted for almost 1 year when Engineer Terer left. So we actually put him through the process, and we had several interviews, invitees who came for the interview, and he emerged the best because, one, he was serving in the rural, Kewasco Rural, and this was just after the merger. Then Terer exits, and so we hired Engineer Siele to take up that role because we felt he understood the in-house politics, and of course he was one of the best, if I can put it in that manner. Cielo took over the office when the merger had just was hitting the road. The relationship then was, we had the CEC, I'm forgetting his name, Geoffrey Ruto. And to my assessment, I think it was one of the moments which we had at least some, he used to attend the meetings, though not regularly. He would give us the audience when we push any assistance or any information to him. And that is how we got that money which was passed in this house, the 52 million, to address the gaps, because there was no activity during COVID. All of us lived at that moment. We also had some money which was given to us by the Water Trust Fund. About, it was again addressing, it was specific. It was to address the payee, the statutory deductions which were not able to be collected or to be done during the time we were not doing any collections. Remember the governor declaring that nobody should pay water during that time because things were not happening during COVID. And I think that is the time we went into another lacuna in terms of revenue collection because customers were not being billed. However, we got assistance, which money had, it was budgeted to the shilling, it was voted, and it was going to the intended purpose in terms of expenditure. That one happened that time, and of course we came over through the COVID, and we had now Madam Rosemary taken over as a CEC, and I would put it in one sentence that the relationship has not been very good because there are issues which sometimes I think I personally have had a lot of, found it so difficult to work with Madam. There are things which she would say, maybe she's privy to that information, and I may not be aware, because some things are from the social side of somebody, you may not be able to really bring it to the office to affect, and if they're not affecting performance, and I may not be able to put it word by word here, but I think we had incidents where the CEC and together with the then former county secretary came into our meeting, and they had some instructions which I want to report to this panel that we were not able to undertake those assignments because we felt they were not the right way to do. I mean, one was to remove Cielo out of the office. I asked, because I was actually the one who was approached, that if he went, we'll be able to have things happening differently. So I asked, what is the problem? Because as a board, we had not assessed the MD as an underperformer in terms of performance. The bottom line was, you assess someone, or you can come into somebody's termination through an assessment of performance, which I think to us was not really what was the issue. Hence, it has not been good, and I don't know whether maybe that is what has informed the non-regular support from the department. That can be answered maybe by another day by the same office of CEC. Madam Noella, Honorable Noella mentioned something on signatories. I'm sorry to say that we will not be signing any
sorry, Madam
signature.
Chair. Sorry, Madam Chair.
Yes.
The relationship between the board and the MD, you have not touched on that.
Fine. Let me respond to that, Chair. Our relationship has been, I would say, official. Nothing which could have worried us to censor him or to give him any warning, because we didn't have reason to do that. And we've always gotten him over a phone call if somebody wanted any clarification, and therefore the relationship has been good, if I can put it in that summary form. We've not had any complaints, and if there was, it never came to my attention as the chair. On the issues of signatory, I think none of us, me included, was a signatory to any of, I didn't understand, Honorable Noella, is it signatory to the bank or to what? Because we signed the minutes, of course, and maybe requests which were going to the donor that it is a board resolution which has agreed on a certain request for us to have a buy-in or an approval.
When I was putting across the question, I meant that most of the time we usually have board meetings and you approve the transactions of the company. For example, maybe if the MD has to employ someone, he has to come to the board. Is that one right?
Yes.
Yes. Now I wanted to know, by the time you people, you are exiting, that one, the contract term was coming to an end.
Yeah.
In your capacity as the chair, have you been able maybe to hand over or maybe to appoint someone, as someone be appointed on an acting capacity? Because I understand the last meeting that you people you had was last year, December, meaning that from January up to now that we are, there has not been any board meeting happening. So in short, there is no any board transaction that can go ahead.
I think there was no opportunity to have any approvals for any request made by the by management in that regard. So we had no one being hired if there was any hiring.
Proceed.
There was a question on the two MDs. Yes, I worked under Terrell, but Terrell left us when I was doing the year one of my appointment, and the company was what it was because the merger actually took effect after Terrell left, or rather it happened soon after, before Terrell left, and CLA took over when the advisory from WASREB, the regulator, was like, operate the two accounts. We want to see how the performance would be in the two coast centers, the rural, and of course there were some parameters which needed to be observed and kept in view for a while to see how the merger was going to work. And therefore, as for salaries, I want to believe that the Kericho Urban has been, Kewasco Urban has been assisting, or rather paying salary for the Kericho Rural, rather the staff there, which is an amount of about 2 million. We actually agreed that let the salaries be addressed like a fast charge in any business of the organization, because this is where the human capital is domiciled. Salaries is one of the things which must be addressed as a first line in terms of payouts. But it reached a time when there is no collection from rural. The collection also from urban needed to be shared into many other votes, which I think was not able to manage given the bulk of the salaries, which hit a figure of about 14 million. You said what happened with the salary then to have delayed. I think it's a revenue inflow which has been a problem. Non-payment of bills, of course, I would give an example of the county government. If it is not paid on time, salary definitely would delay. And I think as the last meeting we had, it was about 20 million, which the county government was owing Kewasco. And I think, I don't know if it has been paid to date. Maybe that one can be checked out. Salaries, of course, even then was not being paid like on the due date, because it could delay a little, given the fact that there was what the initiative of the RRI, the rapid, collecting, going to the customers to mop the payments, and I think that would be, that is what management were putting in place to be able to get the revenues collected in full. The NRW, I think these are monster in the house, and it's not only in Kewasco, but most of the water utilities have this issue. One, It was not 50, it was not 42 if I can remember. It was around 50, there about 49 during the former MD's tenure. And of course, it kept not going down below that. It is now, I think the last time we were getting the report was about 52, 53%. This basically could only be an investment on the infrastructure and the network. Otherwise, the leakages, I think, is the main cause of this. There were other NRW, if I can say, including fraudulent connections. Of course, that is water which would have gone and you don't collect any revenue. But we had some of the staff exiting or separating with the company. Of course, a due process was followed because we had someone who had several connections in the zone of, I think zone D or zone A, something like that, around this other side of Brook. We had customers who kept coming to the office to say that I paid somebody and they have not been connected. So from there, we actually made our decision that the staff who was involved had to separate with the company, and I think it was done with due process followed. Therefore, the NRW, I think it will only go down to manageable levels. That is, after a huge investment has been put in. Thank you, Chair.
I'll give a round of question. Madam Chair, there's a pertinent part you've not answered. Since you left, you ended the term. Who has been acting as a chair?
I think, I don't know. The MD, I think, would answer that. But if the new board has not been put in place, then there is no chair currently in Kewasco, or rather the board. Because there were those members who would have had their, I think it's only Apollo, who was having his life still existing after we exited. There are members who were due for extension. One was FK. Susan? Yes, but it seems before we left, the renewal had not come, and therefore I'm not aware.
Meaning the oversight has not been done since the time you left. Or yes. Apollo can respond.
Apollo, if he has been called to give an assistance.
That is around 8 months, 10.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me start also to support the chair on this NRW challenge, which is a big challenge, not only for Kewasco, but for the entire water utilities in the country. And currently it is at 52%. And we had some strategies or mitigation measures to make sure that we reduce the percentage. And Chair, as you know, that part of the mandate of the board is also to to mobilize resources and also to lobby for partners so that we support the company with new technologies. We had proposed, or we talked to a partner who was ready to assist and invest in smart water meters here in Kericho, so that we produce smart water meters, so that we address the issue of NRW. And the partner was willing, and he's still willing, but the challenge was that we didn't have a board. We didn't have a board. So the last meeting that we had, the partners came, but most, we didn't have a board. So I want to tell this committee that we have never had a meeting because one member cannot transact any business. And Kewasco is a very good company. We are only talking of challenges, but we also have huge opportunities when we we know we are sharing them, we are bettering them all.
Apollo, let me cut you. Do you think the donors and will it be a very good environment for you to get money if the company is doing badly? You see, of course, you are on that end of looking for donors, but you see, there are so many indicators which probably the donors will check on. Of course, do you know that currently there's a donor who has shifted the waste, what do you call, around 1.2 billion to Kisii because of the poor management in Kawasco. So I don't want you to majorly stress on the issue of donors while the company is doing badly. So what we're saying is that the board left. There were no oversight since then, up to date.
Yes, there was
For the last
proper transition.
But you were there as a.
But I was the only one. I was the only legit board member. I talked to the CEC, and I think she was. She initiated the process of forming the board.
Why it took this long?
Maybe she will tell us.
Okay. Let me request Honorable Vincent to post a question.
Thank you, Chair. I think from what I've heard from the chair and the board, to me, I don't want to be kind to you. The reason is, me, I'm mandated to represent the people of Kericho County and Londiani to oversight. And from what I've heard from you, it shows that there was no seriousness with the board. And to this one has led to where Kawasco is currently. From what you are trying to also explain as the board, kindly allow me not to be kind to you, because Kawasco already is down on its knees. And you are mandated, and you took up maybe the oath to serve. Because one, if the company is not performing, then the board is not performing. The last 2 financial years, we got, the last 2 financial years actually, we got unqualified report. One of the reports came from the Senate Public and Investment Committee, recommending restructuring of the management of Kawasco. They recommended so many issues, including even investigation of some of the things that were not going on in Kawasco. You as the board, we have not seen any action from you. And yet, the Office of the Auditor General made recommendation, Senate made recommendations, and nothing has happened from your end. Again, currently as we speak, the liabilities of the company are more than the assets, which is worrying, because even if we sell all the assets in the company, we will still have to go somewhere, which I don't know, to look for money to come and pay the debts, meaning that company is almost insolvent. And you are here as the board members who are mandated by the people of Kericho County to take care of the company. To me, when you talk about NRW, the last financial year, we lost almost 4 million liters of water, meaning we are pumping water to waste instead of pumping water for people to collect money. The debt, I think, Madam Chair, you mentioned about that there is no revenue. Do you know that Kawasco has 220 million that was not collected from the customers? So, to me, I'm not kind to you. I will not be kind, because even today, as we were talking to the Department of Water, even them, they are saying it is very difficult to rescue the company. So, actually, as the board members, you did not play your role very well, because if the MD was not performing, what did you do? What did you do to the staff? have you ever praised the MD and the staff so that they be able to perform? So to me, I'm not kind to you. Thank you.
Next,
Chair.
one question from Martin.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Madam Chair, I want to ask you, the board members, how were your working relationship with the MD, current MD? And also, I had you mentioned about a staff that you said was dismissed because of the issues that were raised by the customers, maybe around Brook area. Maybe you've said somebody, but you can tell us exactly who it was, if you can remember the name for purposes of record, and also if due process was followed. And in addition also, we are aware of some staff who were also dismissed from the service. Were the right processes of dismissal followed? Thank you.
Those are
Yeah,
many questions for you.
We can respond.
Okay,
We can pick the next one.
thank you.
Chair.
Pres-
Thank you, Honorable Vincent, Honorable Martin. Thank you, Honorable Vincent, for not being kind to us. We appreciate that. You know, from where I sit, and my long serving as a public servant, service to the community, service to the country is not a relationship affair. It's not a love affair. It is a must. And there's nothing like tafadhali. It is supposed to be a service. And that one, I think, is well taken. About our failure not to be serious, I think I beg to disagree, because when the financial year is audited, it came from a worst scenario to almost better, and I think we were headed to a better trajectory. That is in my understanding of the reports which we got from audits. We have a very able chair of finance, CPA Langat, and I think from where he sits, I'll give him a chance to maybe give some insights about what could have happened. But to us, I think, having served longer than my colleagues, Kiwasco was headed for exploits. We were able to win the confidence of the donors. Several of them came wanting to partner with us, wanting to invest. And I don't think an investor would come all the way from wherever to want and invest in a going concern entity. So I beg to disagree, save for the vendetta which came in. And again, I think I stand a better view of what happened from my colleagues, because I said I was there earlier than them. The company was actually insolvent, but it has improved. Given the fact that when you talk of 210 million, I don't know where those figures, where you got them from. It could be because when I joined, when the MD was Terrarius, we had liabilities which were actually carried forward, or rather inherited from the then defunct municipal council. Staff and whatever liabilities. There were remittances which were not done. I remember in our first meeting, 91 million we were owing 91 million to Lafund, something like that. And we made the MD put some commitment, because they were threatening to come and do, of course, go through KRA and have our accounts frozen. So we made some standing orders, which I think were being honored when finances were available. But there was endeavor and desire to actually engage the people we owed. One was Lafund, which I think kept coming to the office. KRA was another one. there were remittances which were not done way back. So that was what we found ourselves into. But of course, we could not run away. I remember on an occasion when the MD was locked up in the office by some staff who went to Bomet after the transition authority left. They didn't put in mechanisms on how to address some of the issues. So I had to go, and we had a meeting with the staff. They came and said, we need our dues. Some were retiring. It was very unfortunate that you retire and there's nothing in your account, or rather to go home with, in terms of the remittances, which I think is a mandatory statutory endeavor to be undertaken by any company in this country. But it happened that I think remittances were not done, if I can put it like that, and that is what we found our books reflecting year in, year out. That one, I think, the MD had tried to agree with those institutions which were owing, and there were endeavors to have it repaid in a certain arrangement. The recommendations from Senate, I'm still on Honorable Vincent's question. I was there in Senate. We went for that meeting. But when we got there, there was already an opinion, if I can say. I think that one is, I will give it as a personal view of what I noticed. And I will not shy from saying this, because it's better to say the truth. When we were taken to Senate, we were not given a minute to answer the questions which were laid before us. There were about 9 questions. We were interjected, and there was name calling, there was name branding, and you are not able to answer us anything, and the MD was actually asked to leave the office. One of them said from here, he was supposed to have gone to his house. So he said, did we come for him to be sacked?
Chair,
Yes.
let me intervene.
Yes.
You see, the committee that you met is a Public Accounts and Investment Committee.
Exactly.
And actually there are procedures. And even when I mentioned about the 220 million, it's not out of nowhere. It's because it exists in the reports of the Auditor General. And when you appear in that committee, it's just like this committee that is here, where you don't have to take things personally, because the committee members will ask any question that they wish to ask, the way we are also asking. Now, there is a procedure when you are going to the Senate, saying that same procedures apply to this House. And before, when you go to the Senate, there are responses that you are given. The auditor will sit with you at least to resolve some of the issues that you have with the company. But there are some issues. For example, in the last 2 reports, some of the issues even have never been resolved. The first financial year, it was not resolved, and it has been mentioned, it has been always been captured. I don't know whether you as the board have time to look at those reports so that you understand how the performance of the company is heading to. When you said that the company is in the right trajectory, I think maybe I'm misleading this committee. Because already we have the records, we have the reports. The company is heading even in the worst scenario. And even with the current strikes and the rest, it is even becoming worse. Now, kindly, it's very good to be open and again to furnish this committee with the right information, because we are here seated representing the people. Those reports, and when you went to the Senate, if there was a name calling, maybe it's because of how you responded to the questions, but I think the report that was given by the Public Accounts Investment Committee is a true report, and it should be acted upon, leave alone how you were asked the questions.
Chair, may I, so that I don't lose direction on that question of Honorable Vincent, I'm not saying that we were shy enough to answer, but there was no opportunity to give the overview, already the questions were being asked one after the other. The report which was attached, rather the management report letter which was attached to the questions which had been raised by the Auditor General, we were not able to transact to the end because already, in my own opinion, a decision had been made. So that was it. But when you talk of the 210 million, I have not disputed. Those figures are there, and I think I said we had inherited liabilities which cannot be borne by even Kewasco now, even if we wanted to fulfill, or rather, we may not be able to finish paying off this at this moment. It has to be a long-term arrangement, because these are in tunes of millions. It's not small monies, if I can put it briefly like that. The company, I said, was insolvent then. It was worse, if I can take that one from me. And to me, the processes of improvement, the endeavors which have been put in place, to me was looking like it was going to turn around the company. Reason being, an investment which was done one time by a partner to have the meters installed around Majengo, the populated areas where we had many customers, it bore fruits. There was no leakage in the first place because of the system which was installed through a donor, GIZ, if I can remember, and it was able to give us an overview of what if we did this even more, we were able to get the revenue collection almost to 100% in that manner. Hence, therefore, an investment must be done, or whatever level, it must be done so that to have the company realize its efforts in serving the great people of Kericho. It is a merged utility. It is bigger. It is the only one in the country, by the way. And I think this merger was going to be magic because Kericho dared to do that merger. The rest have never tried because it is something so difficult. But Kericho, I think, will having its minds together, let's do the merger and see how it can work. The merger was a good thing because it attracted donors. It attracted partners who would wish to come and invest. It gave us the economies of scale, the benefit of the economies of scale. But now, the NRW, I think, this is a monster which I mentioned earlier, that it has to, it will reduce with time. That one will not be a one-day thing in my own opinion, because it's something which investment must be undertaken. The other one on the staff which I mentioned through to Martin, Honorable Martin's question, this was a staff called Kaptich. The name was Kaptich, if I can remember, because he was the first person who was mentioned adversely, and even the rest of the colleagues mentioned that he is the one who used to run some illegal arrangement, and so he exited because of reasons which were proven beyond reasonable doubt. The staff, yes, the ones who were dismissed, I think, later on, were because of issues of discipline, issues of integrity, and the process was followed, because that is your committee, FK. I think we had the staff defend themselves. Of course, there's a process which management were undertaking, and it was upon the board to get that report and be able to give their input in actually deciding that the dismissal was effected due to the evidence which had been evidence adduced.
Madam Chair,
like that. Yes.
Let me cut you short. Probably CBA can give us an overview on the same.
Yeah.
Whether he's aware of the two gentlemen called Paul Koech and Bennett Koech and Willie Tanui. Of course, you need to, if it is your department, CBA, we can allow you to brief us on the process which was conducted for the three gentlemen, and of course, are you aware where the records are because as a board member, you could have been able to tell whether it's in HR office, their records or not, because it happens that we've actually asked the files of the same staffs, and they are nowhere. There is somewhere, I don't know where, you will tell us where their files are, because of course you've been in that committee on the disciplinary. Can you take us through whether this the justice was done for the three gentlemen briefly?
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and I wish to indicate the following, that whenever matters that relate to staff come before the presence of the board through this committee, which is the Finance and Administration, of course what we'll seek to have is that process of how did we arrive at where we are. One, what are the charges against the person mentioned? Then what is their defense? Were they given due process? Of course they don't appear before the board, they appear before the management committee, which is because of their level. They'll not come to defend themselves before the board, but they defend themselves before the committee of the internal committee, which is a disciplinary committee of the organization. Then of course it will be reported to the board. This is what was presented before those committees, then reported to the board. Then of course the board, the committee will recommend to the full board of ratification or otherwise of the recommendations arising from the internal committee. And Chair, I may not be very specific on each of those cases of those individuals which were mentioned, but the names, especially Akoech, I remember that coming before us. Maybe the timings of when that happened is another matter. Chair, so for matters of the file, of course, the board doesn't handle those. That is the management of the company to tell us where those files are. And I would want to believe all the files relating to staff should be nested.
They were dismissed on 2020?
Well, 2020 depends on when, because we came to office towards the end of 2020. So
towards the end of 2020, but you vividly remember the names?
Maybe if they were in the same lot, you know, as a case file coming to the board, then I remember name Koech, you know, so not unless it was in the board minutes, but like you say, it was in 2020, you'll find out maybe when. Is it early of 2020 or towards the end? Because we came in October of 2020. That's myself into the board.
So, did you get a chance to, of course, you've said that at the tail ends, you are given files for approval, that is for dismissal to be dispatched. So did you happen to ask what has disciplinary measure be done for these people? Because of course, if the issues of alcohol, of course, CPA, you can understand that is not it's a disease, and probably there are some other ways we can handle, because these are people who they are done away with alcohol, they can perform well. So kindly tell us, because from our hand we got to some information. These are people who are just found to be addicted to alcohol. So can you briefly tell us whether did they follow the right procedures until then? Or they report that these people were taken to rehab? Or was it, you want to believe that justice should have been done to these people? And continue.
Thank you, Chair. And unfortunately, I don't come from a privileged position in terms of the full details in relation to this case. From where you sit, Chair, you might have gotten a brief on the current situation on how that transpired. And I want to believe, even if it was in 2020, that was a build-up. It couldn't have happened towards maybe towards the end of 2020 and be determined around that time. So it should have been a build-up. And of course, in matters in relation to drunkenness, of course, in the current dispensation is a matter that for someone has to be subjected to maybe probably rehabilitation. Then, of course, the government cannot spend on you twice if you've relapsed, going back to alcoholism. So that's what provides for in the HR statutes.
So do you think we can, if we request for the files for these staffs as at now? Can you be able to receive or to get their files?
I may not be competent to say yes or no because we are never custodians of support. We are never custodians of files, so it would be the management to provide.
So about the issue of MD being in a position not to allow the HR, the current HR, to assess the file for the individual, what must have happened for him not to allow this file to be reviewed?
Chair, if I can maybe come in, because I think I was there during that time of 2020. He hadn't joined when these stuff were being discussed in the meetings. We had a moment when we didn't have a HR manager, so there was somebody who was assisting in the department, and I think there were endeavors to have the staff taken through some counseling, because we had a budget for the training and counseling, and I mean to support the staff in whatever manner they needed to be assisted. So I think I may not be able to remember, that is a long time, and these are staff who had issues which, as CPA has mentioned, it could have been a process which went on for some time. For you to be dismissed, I think it needed to go through the process, which all of us know it cannot happen like instantly. So for somebody Koech, I think he was a member of union, if I can remember. And he kept being very vocal. When I joined, when we went to visit the staff, and he was that person who was very, very handy and jovial. At some point, he just missed out. So we got the information that he was like in his own world, drinking spree, and he was requested to attend to see a counselor. So I think the company made efforts to have him tied to a counselor, paid for him. So if it missed out, I think the decision to dismiss him, having made the efforts to take him through the counseling, could have been after he's not being willing to be assisted. Of course, and other discipline cases which could have been in his file. I think that one was done, with due process was followed. For Bernard, I think he even came and saw me one time. He comes from near my home, and I told him, if you were sick and you mentioned that you're missing work because of some sickness which he had. He said he had an accident one time and he was hit by, I remember he told me, like, the wife actually came with him. And I told him if it was something which was addressed medically, the company, of course, must have taken him through the help, the assistance of medical attention. And I think he must have been dismissed due to other additional cases which could have made the decision to be arrived at. For Tanui, I don't remember, but this could have been, let me not fumble around the answer around that one, but we had the reports coming to the committee and of course to the board, and I think the summary dismissal for the staff who were affected did not happen instantly. It went through a process.
Chair.
Yes.
Through the chair, can you confirm to this committee that the acting HR by then might have gone with the file of these 3 people, and why these people were dismissed are missing their files? So can you prove to this house that upon their dismissal, the acting HR who was there went with their files? Thank you.
Proceed.
Chair, I don't want to believe the HR left just before the MD Terer. He was still serving. Terer was still there. She was actually called Linda. She was Linda, yes. So if those files then disappeared, we were not brought our attention was not brought to that effect of the files missing. But of course, the accusation of the staff, the mistakes and the indiscipline which was
Chair,
yes.
don't take us wrong. You are just trying to defend someone. You say, when you remember very well, there was an acting HR during the process of these 3 stamps. So we want a clear evidence. Why, when we ask for the 3 files, for these 3 people who are dismissed, their files are missing. Can you prove to this house where are the files? And who are the custodians of the files?
Chair, thank you. I'm not trying to make any circles around it. I'm giving an input because yes, we had the discussions done in the board meeting and the approval for their exit was endorsed. Reason the committee or the board were convinced from what was presented by management. I said we had the HR manager exiting and we had someone who was a deputy. I think he was on acting capacity and he's still there. The staff is still serving, who was then the deputy of the manager who left. So some of these processes started before the manager who left. And of course it was, I think, actualized during the time when she had exited the company. I'm not trying to give any cover-up of any kind because the incident which led to their dismissal happened, I think part of them were during the current MD, another one happened during the former MD. So I'm not saying it never happened. The files, if they are not in the office, then where could they be? Maybe management through the MD can answer that question. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Proceed. Follow-up question?
Okay.
Is it a different question or a follow-up question?
Maybe a different question, but it is in connection. You
Okay.
still have got some questions
Yeah.
to answer?
You can Chair, you
There was
can
something-
wind up.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
There was a mobilization of resources which I think Apollo mentioned. Let me just bring that to us to speed. I think it was the KfW German Development Bank, which we had several meetings with them, and there was a funding to a tune of 1.something billion to be undertaken, a project in Litain. I think, first of all, the donor gave us the hearing because we were having everything else right. They must have done their diligence. And when the failure is not going to be put on Kewasco alone, I think this house, through the department, made a request to buy land, and I think that process you're all aware through the Committee, of course, of Water. The fact that they're leaving is not a making of Kewasco per se. I think this will be borne by the executive, rather the county, and I want to rest my case there. It is not Kewasco, because it is management who wrote the proposal.
Madam
It is
Chair.
management, yes, Chair, sorry.
The issue is, as of now, yes, you've said you've exited the office.
Yes.
Meaning, this donor will also look at the implementers of the project. So if there's nobody in the office to implement the fund given, meaning they will not agree. So in terms of the lands issues, I think it's on course. But the bottom line is, they are talking about the environment. You see, the facility should host, of course, the execution and other things, because they are doing in phases. So that is the reason why when you talk of donors, of course, if we don't have the oversight team in board, they will not agree with us. So that issue of it is a process which actually the county government, the shareholder should facilitate. But there's an oversight aspect part of it. So meaning if the board are not there, these people run away from us. Thank you.
Yeah, I think once a board is constituted, they will definitely make a comeback because they are not bad people according to my assessment. I've interacted with them, yes.
Proceed.
Yeah. There was a question from, I think I was just going back to the mobilization of resources. I think I've answered Honorable Vincent on our non-seriousness, which I think I said we may not be blamed to 100%, because in our board we have the CEC Water, CEC Finance sitting in person, and some of the resolutions which are passed would need to be expedited on the other side of the executive, because they are there and they have the whole picture with them. But we have since not been able to get a fast response because of, they sit with us. And if there is anything, we were glad. Among the things which other peers were telling us is that CC sitting in person in their boards was something they didn't see, or they had representatives. But for us, we had the two sitting in person. And therefore, we thought this would be a game changer for our decision making, because it could be like on the next day, it is getting to where it was supposed to go, especially in terms of requests. Otherwise, we needed to really be performing better than this, because we have the two able offices being part of the decision making and oversight in the company. And I would have really wished to see a better performance on our end, because if a decision is made and the CEC Water is there, it is like one touch over a phone call, the department, what is happening? I mean, there are things which can happen rather than going to the next person to discuss with them, have a buy-in, come back to us. I thought would have been performing better than this. But it is, we are where we are. It's unfortunate.
Madam Chair, we have a round of questions, but I'll begin with one. That is, you're also aware of staff whose tenure was revoked immediately when Mr. Engineer Terrell left. You will brief this committee what happened and who did that. Did you give authority for the revoking of their contract? And number two, you will tell us the status of the customer's deposit on that line as an oversight tool. So, CPA, you want to say something?
Yes, Chair, because this is a House of Records. I wanted to make it clear something small in respect to what Honorable Vincent mentioned on the matter of AOG's reports. When we came in, Chair, the report that was coming from the Office of the Auditor General was adverse. So we moved to unqualified. So I think that should be made clear. On account of the following: 1, NRW; 2, unpaid shareholding; 3, matters of working capital that is negative. So they're intertwined. And Chair, what we did in relation to NRW, we made a request of 102 million to rehabilitate the systems within town, because that is where much of the water is getting to. 2, Chair, we did 100% change of meters around site and surveys to test, is it relating to meters, non-working meters? The answer was no. It is something beyond that. And we had a meter entry point, meter exit point, so that we know how much is consumed in between. So, Chair, we realized that it is a rehabilitation of the colonial era systems within the town where we are losing much of our water. So, and that 102 million was done, but it's never, of course, with the executive to be able to fund, so that we can be able to come. And you see the linkage between NRW, negative working capital is the same. Shareholding is a different ballgame, Chair. So on account of those 3 things.
Thank you, thank you. So those are, have you noted those questions, Madam Chair, the 2?
Yes.
Because Honorable Eric Bett is adding to also.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So I think Chair will allow me and Honorable Peter Kemoy, because the set of questions we'll be asking will be based on documents I have with me here, and this is, so Chair will guide us, because I have documents here which I will share with you, which are critically showing mismanagement of resources in Kewasco by your MD, and want to know if you, because these documents are, that's the reason why I was asking initially, when was your last working day? Documents I have here are for 2023, February, and these are documents of irregularities by the MD himself. So I want to know if these documents, if you've been able to go through, because you do oversight. The way you do oversight as MCS over the executive, we want to know if you're playing a role of oversight, because now we don't want to blame you on management issues, but we want to hold you accountable on oversight. So I have, I'll just give you a brief. One is that we have a document here where the MD fueled a vehicle, KCR 0011J. Same day, fueling a vehicle, the same vehicle twice, his personal vehicle given by the company. Same day, same time. 50 liters and 46 liters. And on the record here is the one who fueled, and this one is the date. So I'm just briefing, and I'll give you the documents so that you can go through, confirm, because this must have come through your desk. That is the first allegation. Number two is also on fuel over on weekends, conspicuously by the MD himself, and this is reported again from the staff who work in the office. So the second document here is on vehicles being fuel and mostly on weekends, and it's done by the MD. The only place is done, it is done before that. So these are documents that you will tell us if you do it, because like I said, we want to hold you accountable on oversight, because that's your work in that. So I think we will allow you to go these documents, you look through them, and then Chair, maybe the other questions I will ask later, because I'm specific on those questions about, and maybe a diplo, because the question we want to ask is based on documentation that we have, documents that we have. Remember, I've said, unit management, you do oversight, because we believe that there's a problem. One of the problems of Kewasco could be lack of oversight. Thank you.
So as we want to give you those three questions, Madam Chair, as the CPA and Apollo is going through those documents, validating whether that is right and wrong, or right or wrong, so that you can respond. So I give you this juncture to respond. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair. The tenure of the staff, or the revoking of their appointment. Again, I think my two colleagues who are with me here were not there. This again happened just before MD Terrer left. We had a meeting, and of course he was informing us of his intentions to go to Bomet. And so earlier than that, he had said he needed to have some 5-6 staff to be converted to permanent staff. They were casuals because of their services which they were rendering, and they had already been working with us. So we gave that approval subject to the financial availability, because you realize you cannot hire someone and they are not in the budget, and it becomes a problem to have them converted, rather to onboard them on those terms. So before he exited, we had a visit to one of the intakes down in Kimugu, Timbolil something. around in the forest. And while there, we learned that he was with us. He said, yeah, I'm already handing over, and it was the last visit he was making with us to the field. Only to realize that the new MD, that is Engineer Siele, informs us in the following week that 26 number of staff had been given letters of employment, appointed on PNP terms, and some of us were like in shock. 26 out of approval of 5. You see, the MD is the one who takes minutes. So if he went and changed the minutes, because I would have loved if those minutes were brought so that it could cure or rather answer the question of the approval which management seeks from the board, especially on engagements of that manner. So it happened that I was taking over from the then chair that was exiting also, and the only remedy to cure this was to recall those letters, take them back to their position as casual staff, until such a time the budget was available to have them convert, of course, to the terms and conditions of the PNP arrangement. So this was done in good faith. There was no malice, because the anomalies again on those letters was that the 26 of them had same PF number. I think they were done in a hurry, and there was something which was missing in terms of making them look straight as they should have been. So the staff, of course, were not relieved of their duties. They continued serving as casuals, hoping that when finances, resources were available, they would be absorbed on terms.
Madam Chair,
yes,
a little bit of interjection there. Was it that did you retirees? It was not a replacement kind of?
No, the retirees were very few. In fact, you realize most of our staff are aging, and the retirees, I think, were 5 or so that time. There weren't many, so we needed to have the 5 to be, at least to occupy the offices which were very critical, and these were technical. They were not on other departments.
The approvals, revoking the appointment letter was when a duration of how long? Because we understand that this was done entirely by MD Terrell when he left. We already talked with the committee and the board, and he made an agreement. But when the current MD came on board, he's the one who did such revoking, and of course, being the board who approved, and also you came after, and then also done revoking, meaning there was something in between. Either the right person was the sitting MD, and this other person wanted to have a space for his people to employ. So give us clarity, a duration of time. When did you revoke? When did the revocation was done?
See, immediately the outgoing MD left. On the last day of his being in office, he gave someone those letters to distribute. That is the report we got, which was again a bit awkward. They should have been done through HR, but they were given to our staff to give out, I think on a weekend or something. So he left, but the approval I remember very well, because I had just, the outgoing MD was still there. I was serving as the audit committee chair, yes. We had approved only 5 or 6 members of staff to be employed, not 26. That one, I want to be on record, it wasn't the number we approved. And I again mentioned earlier that when the MD is the one writing the minutes, it could have been, because he was exiting, he would have had the latitude of doing anything around that time.
So Madam Chair,
yes,
it can be the vice versa. Probably the one who revoked, the current MD,
yep,
forged the minutes. Can you agree with that? You may not be aware, If you can believe on the first one being maybe making changes, then possibly the current one also might be the truth, because you don't have the minutes is the custodian of the minutes. Number two, he approved you revoke 26 and employ 85 casuals.
85?
85. Is that true?
I'm not aware. Unless those casuals which are being mentioned were the ones which the Chinese, the contractor of Kimu, because these things happened almost immediately.
At the same time.
Yes. So if the casuals are being told, are being mentioned to have been 85, I want to believe whoever was given that information could have included the ones who are now being hired for Chinese to be able to undertake his work. Otherwise, I'm not aware on Kewasco. 85, no. I don't think, yes.
Okay, let him have a rejoinder on the same.
Do you have the minutes for revoking those new appointment letters? Did you serve as the board? Number two, the approach to these people to submit their appointment letters to you was very good. That the appointment letters has the same IB number, and after receiving all the appointment letters, you revoke the appointments, not even revoking, you dismiss from work all these people. So provide us with the minutes for recalling these appointment letters, and what was the work plan after revoking these appointment letters. So it shows that you had a meeting, you being the chair. After you have been informed, you had to call for a meeting. So you should furnish this committee with the minutes that proves the same.
Yeah,
For
Chair.
clarification.
Chair, thank you.
Number two, you have to confirm to this committee that you say you only revoke the appointment, but you put them at a place of work under the same capacity as in contract terms. That are some of the words from your mouth. But from where I sit, you sent them home immediately after receiving the appointment letters. And we have evidence.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think that bit, I may not be able to get the minutes, but they are available. What happened, the staff went to court because they needed, of course, redress of what they needed to be listened to. Of course, the legal redress was the only solution. But nonetheless, there was the endeavor to have them stay on as contract staff was something which was captured very well, and therefore they were not losing their jobs, but they were only going to be converted when we have the resources to do that on permanent and pension and PNP terms. Reason being, there was no budget for this undertaking in the first place. We didn't have it in the budget which was running then, which was supposed to be operational, and therefore having them in that kind of arrangement was going to be illegal in the first place. We would not have had them upgraded, and you don't pay them. You asked about whoever recalled the letters. I think the recalling was not done through any coercing. It was like, bring the letter, let us sign up, we keep in view our progress, because we were looking at Dukamoja to be a remedy to this solution. Hence, therefore, none among them, there are those who agreed to sign up. Some said we are going to court. And I think the court process took its course. And the grounds which they lost, I think, were were allowed by the court, or rather was actually given by the court, because those who came back are still there up to now.
So the
Those
case
who
has
decided to go to court, I
the
think
case
they
has
lost
been
it.
heard and determined.
Yes.
Okay, and then
Those who went to court, I think, lost because of the court process. But those who agreed to sign up and stay on, they are still there up to now.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
The case which has been heard and determined.
Arrested.
Arrested. So I will, we want to know who is the custodian of the minutes. Whenever you do meetings, whenever you have your sittings, who is the custodian of the minutes? You say you or the MD?
Our secretary, that is the MD.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, maybe, sorry, maybe if I may just add on still on the minutes. Are you confirming to this committee that when you have had your board meetings and the MD has done the minutes, you usually don't sign the minutes to own it? You leave it to the MD as the custodian?
We do it upon confirmation, Madam Noel.
So you are confirming to this house that the minutes that were done maybe to confirm the employees on a permanent condition, you are neither the part of it or signing, because I'm expecting that if you approved 6, there is a minute that you owned as the chair and as the members of the committee.
Yeah, I think the best thing is to get the minute book where the signature of the chair, then who was chairing the meeting, the session, is filed. Because
Okay,
that is something which is standard.
So you will be able to provide us with that minute?
We should be able to get those minutes, because the minute book, during my time, I insisted that the minutes which have been confirmed and approved by the next sitting are filed in that minute book, which I think is available. Yes.
Madam Chair, I think you're the most experienced board, having been there since 2016.
2017.
2017.
2018, yes.
What was not happening for you not to have a room, cupboard, you can place your minutes with office? Because Kawasco is a company, it's a very big company, and of course, it is not good to leave the minutes. Of course, having known that probably the chair can, the secretary can change, can manipulate. What was hard not to have a copy or your custodian of the minutes, so that in case, in normal practices, even as a senior person in an office, you should be custodian of your minutes, and you should have a copy of them. So that in any case, someone manipulates, changes the minutes, then we can rightly dispute. So I don't know what happened, and that's the big company like Kawasco doesn't have a room to be able to have their own minutes and documents. Of course, I know the custodian right now of the contact of MD is the MD himself. Is that right?
Yes. But Chair, there is a minute book which I think is a copy. After the signature, it is pasted there in the meeting before we finish. I mean, it is a file, a book which after the minutes are confirmed for that it was a true copy of the deliberations. They are supposed to be pasted on the minute book, which I think is not easy to tamper with because it is serialized. And I believe those documents can be found in the minute book, which is because I cannot be carrying those documents unless you really don't trust your soldiers on the ground, your lieutenants. So the minute book, in my opinion, should be the copy, even if it is kept on top of the table. Nobody should tamper with it. But we live in
as the chair,
animal farm.
As the chair,
yes.
I think in minutes it is copied to you as the chair.
Sorry. Let me switch off my phone. I'm sorry, Chair. Sorry, I had put silent. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe just just to interject you on the issue of the being a board member, and I think you've mentioned a very important thing that we need to confirm. Because I'm saying is because I've also been a board member of the county assembly. We have a board in this assembly, and have been a member. The practice is that all the members of the board must have their own files of every minute, not the chairperson alone. So tell us now, because I want to confirm if you've been running Kewasco differently. This is about corporate governance. We want to know about governance issues about Kewasco as a board level. Tell this committee if, when you sit in the board, if the members of the board do have their personal files where the confirmants which you confirm as a chairperson, they get a copy in their file, like CPA here and Apollo, and should be locked in a cabinet whereby in Kewasco, whereby when you have a board meeting, you rightfully access, get files for all the members, you read through the minutes of the previous meeting, you have a proposer and a seconder, you confirm, you sign as the chair, it becomes the true record of the minutes. Because the way you're explaining, I'm seeing that probably you would have been doing things maybe not in a proper, and I'm saying because I've been a board member as well. I've been the vice chair of the board of the county assembly, and the chair is the speaker. And in any resolution, whether we are hiring, promoting, demoting, it is minuted. And every member of the board has a file confirming that each of the resolutions, each of the members of the board will have a similar copy of the confirmed minutes to ensure that whatever the board is doing is actually a true position, because these are records which will always, so as you put it, the secretary of the board is the CEO, is now the MD, will have his copy, but all the members will also have their copies. Now, you don't, of course, don't go with copies home, but they remain in Kewasco, in a cabinet, and a lock and key for the next meeting to be retrieved for the board. So maybe tell us if that is because we want to know if that problem is there, this committee would want to solve that problem, because now, even if you have a new board coming on board, and they'll still do the same thing, then I think that's another issue, that's one issue that this committee would like to know if it is not happening, so that we can propose a solution and help Kewasco to move forward and have records which are verifiable and can be used in anywhere. Thank you.
You can proceed, Chair.
Chair, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Eric Bett. We have files against each member of the board. Their name is written on the file, and whatever they script and comment, they're actually in the file. The signed copies after deliberations are confirmed. A seconder, and a proposer and a seconder would be sought, and they are filed accordingly. We have those records, and every time we go for the meetings, we are brought for those files. And then there is the conflict of interest book, of course, which is there. We have the file which now has all the signed copies. Each member gets, of course, for the next meeting, the members have whatever will be deliberated on that day, and the previous, of course. It is in those files. And the file now which is kept as a reference, because you may not be able to refer the minutes which were discussed earlier, could be in between the other documents which are being annexed into the board packs. So we have that file intact, and I think it is updated, because the last time I signed was up to the time we had the meetings. So it is available, Chair, and we observed a lot of governance in terms of running those meetings, very professional. We even were champions of good governance in running water utilities in a gala presentation in Nairobi. So we had a trophy on that. It was done very well, and I think we compared with the very well managed governance in terms of board governance and oversight. Thank you, Chair. That one is there, Your Honorable. You can refer, I think they're in the office.
Thank you. I think now, Chair, we can allow you to respond to those questions, and you can hand over, if you are done with the documents, you can hand over to us.
There is something on customer deposits.
Yes, yes.
These deposits, this account, I think, was managed from the Commercial and Finance Manager's Office. Of course, the MD being the overall. Anytime we borrowed, and I think we borrowed once, was to address the VAT which needed to be paid so that the partner was undertaking the Ainamoi, the JICA team. So we did that for us to be able to open an account, and the borrowing was approved and it was to be refunded. The rest of the borrowings, I think, happened before we came, and the regulator had a direction on that it was not supposed to be the practice. So any monies which had been borrowed needed to be refunded. So it was not our usual happening. It would only happen when we were like engaging in a crisis, and it happened, I think, once. Okay. It was only once when we got a request to borrow from the customer deposits. Otherwise, it is an account which again had been depleted. It was being built up again by the current management, because we said it would be risky not to have the monies there. A customer would come wanting their money and it is not available. So we were aware about it, and we didn't allow, of course, without any good reason. And the money which we borrowed was FK. It wasn't a lot of money. It was something manageable so that we were able to have the account building. Otherwise, it was nil at some point due to withdrawals, I think borrowings which were done way back. I may not be able to give the exact time, but during our time, we made sure that account was being updated and being refurbished, or rather reactivated again. So there is money in that account. It was not empty as such, but nobody could touch until there's an approval which was made to the board.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Did you refund back after borrowing? And if that's so, when you left that is on last year, was the money in the bank?
I want to request FK if he can respond to that.
Thank you, Chair, with your permission. On customer deposit, whenever there was a borrowing, and this was on account of the counterpart funding for a donor-funded project, they required about 1.8 million. That you pay your 1.8, they have to see it in the account. They set up, they establish what we call dedicated account where the donor will put their money. So you put in, so it was borrowed, and a standing order of 100,000 to repay every month was placed on the originating account. So that every time revenue is collected, a standing order has been placed to repay that kind of money. So it was actually in to attract that kind of funding, which was a grant from the donors.
So since if you calculate the borrowing you borrowed was how much?
I may not be very precise, but I think it was about 1.8 million. That is the percentage that was from what we call the contribution from benefiting.
And the exact amount which was in the bank before you borrowed?
I think it was in the range of 9-10 million. Yes, we need to, but that we can confirm.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's allow them to wind up with the questions. The last one, you can respond.
Yes. The documents, I think I was not able to see them. The documents on the vehicle, KCR, fueling the same day, on weekends. Did you check on this?
So maybe the finance, because the finance CPO you had seen that maybe you can react
can
fast.
Just give an overview as I check, yes.
Yes.
Thank you again, Chairman. I've looked at the documentation, the two sets. There is one more maybe I would look at which my colleague Mr. Apollo was having. And I saw the fueling on the 12th of September. I think it was 12th of September 2023 of KCR 011J. And there is an order that is attached. What I could not see from the order is because it's covered by the ETR, there is certain information, very critical information that we need to look at it, because one of which is the person who signed the order. So I could not find out the order, as well as on the statement, it is also covered, because these are the auxiliary documents which are not generated from the system. Maybe, you know, as an auditor, an experienced auditor, there are certain components that I need to look at for me to make a determination. One of which is look at the order, who signed the order. Secondly, look at the original, not covered. You know, this one covering a lot of information, so not covered. Then the ETR is not clear again because it's a photocopy, so I could not pick those nitty-gritties in respect to that. So that is one aspect. On one of them, I realized the person receiving, I think, should be a driver or something, a Robert Soy. I saw Mr. Robert Soy receiving the fuel for 036. Is it 036 or 086? 039?
Maybe before you go to the next one there, can you still confirm to us the one for KCR? Because unless you are telling us, even on the dates, the date itself, you cannot say anything. The LPOs are from the same day. There's so many things we are very clear there. So it's not about who ordered and what. We want to know within a span of a day, you take 46.26 liters, and then also 51 liters, and give us the capacity liters of the same vehicle, KCR, that is RAV4. What is its capacity in terms of the tank? Can it consume how many liters, KCR?
Chair, with your permission, I was saying for me to make a determination, I have no problem with the alleged fueling. Of course, it may not be, it is not in order if you are fueling on the same station, not unless you left in the morning for Nairobi, came back fuel, and you are leaving for another destination. That can happen. But I'm saying, for me to make a determination on the nexus between these documents and then that element of fraud, then there are certain nitty-gritties that you must have. And you cannot make a determination from this documentation. I can only see 12th and the same document, but very critical information is covered because of the photocopying. That is what I'm saying as an experienced accountant. And that wouldn't be asked by anyone else if I was to be presented before this. Chair.
We can, because it seems like we're not reading on the same page, because we have an ETR. I think the difference is just about, so maybe we can, so I'm talking about the two ETR receipts from the petrol stations. I have two of them. One is at, the time is 14:48, 16:48 hours. That is on the same date, that is 99:45 amount. And then again, it is just, and then again at 16:51 hours, same date, same day. That is difference of, this is a difference of 3 minutes. So the same vehicle again, 90-20 liters. So I'm talking about, these two ETRs. Forget about the other missing pages, but I'd refer to this ETR from the petrol station because the ETR has the time and has the code. Of course, these other ones, the LPUs here are covered as you've said, but I'm talking about the ETR copies from the petrol station with the same vehicle. Of course, we may miss the other details you're mentioning about here, but for us, This is the ETR, which has the timestamp and the amount of liters being done. Why we're bringing this question issue here is just to the question of oversight, which we mentioned here, that does the board rises beyond and looks, even as we are looking at issues of not money flowing in, are you checking on the expenditure? Are you critically analyzing usage of this on management? Because you are supposed to do oversight. So either you do oversight or you do not do. So this was just a question of oversight on your part. To what extent do you go to really check? Because when a company is ailing, you'd want to understand and say, where can we save on? Are we fueling right? Where are our vehicles going over, or where are our vehicles going? Are we filling the water dowser? How is the fuel for the other vehicles, like maybe for the MD, being done? And that's the main issue here. We're asking about this. And these documents were supplied by the staff in Kewasco, putting a finger on the board that you're sleeping on the job and saying they are not helping us to help the company to reduce all unnecessary expenditure. And that is why we have brought this document. So maybe as you answer, we may not get the details right now, but the question here is, to what extent do you do as a board? Because when things are not working in an organization, you think outside the box. You say, money is not coming up, but what can we do for now to ensure that any expenditure is necessary? That is the question that this committee is asking. It would be about this voucher right now, but it's just an indicator, because we are simply saying, did you go the extra mile when things are tough at Kewasco to seal loopholes like this, if there are any? Of course, we don't know if it is true, but this has been supplied by the staff who feel that the management and the board may have collided to bring down Kewasco.
Chair, with your permission.
Yes, continue.
I take on it. Chair, I want to be very clear. Kewasco operates a system that is transport managing. One, it will be able to track destinations of those vehicles. Secondly, it will be able to give us at the end of the month, and that is where the board comes in. But on the nitty-gritties, like you say, Chair, on operational matters, I think we'll have mixed apples with oranges, because on matters oversight, we'll be looking at how much, what is the standard, how much is it consuming, what is the standard. And that is where we say, even on capacity of the tank, that is at that, stewardship level. But on this one, this is where now, and you are lucky, Honorable Bet, that staff supplied. If they had said differently, that they had supplied to the board and failed to act, then we'll be speaking differently. Because the same people who are supplying you told us before the presence of the deputy governor that you are thieves. Then we told them, the police station is right here. Just walk, report that CPA FK Langat stole a shilling from the company. At that time, the last time we ever paid sitting allowance was in February. But you are not complaining. So when that comes in, it has now gone to that level of personal. When that was said, of course, the deputy governor never raised a finger. I'm saying this for record because he was there. She was there. He was there. It was said, you are thieves, you have stolen. We told them, but we sat down. Of course, the governor never told them, if you don't have evidence, don't say it. But for me, I took offense because we had not been paid even our own sitting allowance. So when we say we have colluded to steal, we still take offense. Because up to now, even those sitting allowances have never been paid. But we are here, we are not worried if they will ever be paid. I think some of us, our integrity is beyond reproach, Chair, and we need protection.
You know, CPA, at first, during your introduction, you said Kewasco is in crisis, in financial crisis.
It's a fact.
It is a fact. But when you see the mismanagement of such case, fueling the same car in a difference of 3 minutes, are you utilizing the finance in the right way? When you say you have a crisis of finance, what have you done to find out that, to be very sincere, we are in crisis of finance because of this and this and this as a CPA? While when we have a document that proves within a span of 3 minutes, the same vehicle, KCR, is fueling the same car, 46.2 liters, and after 3 minutes is fueling also another 51 liters. And this is a RAV4. The capacity of RAV4 should not go even beyond 30 liters or 50 liters. So how can you account when you say you have a crisis of finance? How can you account? What evidence do you have to tell us that Kewasco is in crisis of finance while there is mismanagement of funds? Prove to this house.
Chairman. No. I think
Chairman, I think that has gotten personal, and I want to make a response because it's a house of records, and we will not allow it unchallenged. Chairman,
for us to move on, let me say this, because already you have answered that the relevant and the rightful person who did all these things.
That's what I want to say, Chairman. That this is management matter, it is not in the purview of the board. The way someone will do an illegal connection, one single illegal connection cannot be a failure of corporate governance.
That is okay.
And Chair, let me just, on a rejoinder of my colleague Langat, why is it being picked on the fuel of the MD's vehicle alone? Are there any other documents which were not brought to you, which I think you should have asked, so that you are able to pin the board to have been an accomplice to this mismanagement? Which vehicles? These are service vehicles. So do you want, this happened, I think your CPA,
Chairman, I
these
wanted to
documents
also
could have come
say
to
something
your-
with regards to that.
Okay.
Chairman, the role of the board.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry.
I'm not saying that I'm supporting the board, but the role of the board, where you are supposed to play very well as the board, is actually to look at the overall objectives of the company. Again, you are supposed to oversee the senior management of the company. For example, in terms of hiring, because it's you who hire the MD, and it's you who can fire the MD. Again, you are supposed to mobilize resources for the company, either from the donors and the rest. I know maybe to some extent, because you are the board and you're not there on full time, you have a responsibility of getting reports from the management and scrutinize the reports. Again, the reason why I was saying I was not kind to you is because of you are supposed to be looking at the reports like those of Auditor General, because those reports, those who are not there on day-to-day basis, such reports now for the whole financial year will help you to identify challenges that are there. Because normally, they normally say, as a good manager, you should be attentive to details. So where maybe you failed as the board is those details. The small details that are ignored are the ones that made the company to fail. We cannot blame you because of a small issue like that so directly, but when you look at the overall picture now of a department, for example, when you look at fuel in general, as board members, you can talk of fuel in general. When you look at something like trainings, in the financial statement, there's a place where 4 million was spent for trainings when the staff were not getting salary. Now you as the board should have come in and said, why are you prioritizing on spending on a training of 4 million when you should have even prioritized payment of salaries? Those are the things that maybe you should have looked at the board. So where I can challenge you is you never considered putting up maybe policies or measures of cost cutting in general for the company. Scaling down on maybe looking at those small issues from fuel, from running cost of the company, maintenance cost, and all the issues. Again, in terms of performance, you do not take action to ensure that either there is someone who is not responsible, you identify and you fire and you hire another one who is competent. Because you are not there on full time, there is somebody who is representing you. Again, as board members, remember you are supposed to be representing the interest of the shareholder and the interest of the public that is delivering water to the public. That is where you missed as the board.
Chair.
Kindly, Madam Chair, maybe you can, because of time, you respond in a precise manner so that we can move on. I think follow-up question.
Yes.
Are those many, before I allow you, are those questions? Yes, Madam Chair, are those questions
Yeah, I
many?
just wanted to give a rejoinder to what Honorable Vincent is saying. I think it is unfortunate because the shareholder is represented ably by none other than the docket holder, CEC Water and CEC Finance. If it missed their sight, then I think what you've just told us happens in another setup, not KEWASCO. You've given us your thoughts, which I think are the right position of how a board should run. We have been on boards. I personally have been in 2 government boards. Currently, I sit in the as a vice chair of ActionAid International. It's an NGO. We move in tunes of billions. And when you tell us it missed our sight, these are things which happen like in the kitchen. You don't go to your kitchen every time. Maybe that ugali fell down and whoever was cooking removed and cut the matope and gave it to you. You will never know everything. This happened in around September. This was the last quarter. I think this would have come to the sight of the board in the next sitting, which I think the board which will be installed or unveiled will be able to look at this. This, I think, was not part of the deliberations we had in our, if they picked on the things which were trying to put the board look like it was an inept board, it is unfortunate. We made a lot of efforts, and we even met the donors. I personally, as the chair, kept having Zoom meetings with the donor whom we've just kept in view, that is KFW. We were working in consortium with Lake Victoria. We were working with government. It is unfortunate that our careers are being brought to like some below average in this sitting. It is unfortunate. KEWASCO was not what it was when we came. I was there earlier than my colleagues. We have a whole CPA who was the chair of a very, very important docket of finance and administration. I want to promise and tell you that we looked at everything very keenly. It is about what you get is what you give out. If we are not treated to some of the information, would you think we were angels to look at it maybe from another angle? We were very objective, and that is why we got the donors who gave us JICA already on Chemnetui route, Kapsuser. Honorable Diplo here will be a beneficiary. Those people were not bringing their monies to nowhere. We had the CEC sitting with us. Would it have been that they were like, let it be so that we are now being branded as having not been able to manage and oversight? It is unfortunate. It doesn't really matter, but it is a beneficiary to the area where you come from, or all of us come from. Unfortunately, Chair, I want to finish by saying the shareholder who was represented ably by the 2 people whom I mentioned, I think they should have been here for them to have answered also, and we are put on the carpet, all of us.
Madam Chair, they will come, they will appear on Monday.
Yeah, but they should come with us so that we share this blame. It's really unfortunate that you make us look like we didn't do anything.
Madam Chair, let me say this.
You already have an opinion, Chair.
We shall have them. You see, those are the last people who should, of course, you have done your bit. And of course, we are not here to victimize you, but the only thing we wanted is the information just to facilitate us at the tail end. So
Chair,
kindly.
would I be even right to put it on record that I was requested to have the MD fired? Somebody writes letters for my signature. I said, you cannot try my intelligence. I was not going to sign blind letters. And I was promised a job. I mean, these are things, if you want us to put off the camera and we tell you, even in Kikale, we can do it.
It's okay,
Because you've really mocked our intelligence. I must say, gentlemen, respect us.
We shall go off the camera a little bit. Please, you will allow us to have off the camera for some few minutes. So has it been? Yeah. Just relax a little bit. Kidogo tu. Just console kidogo.